Welcome into the Cowboys Report. We have videos every single day for you guys right here on the Dallas Cowboys Report. So whether it is news like the injury stuff we're about to get into, or just rumors, off-season stuff, coaching, draft, etc., you have come to the right place. Hit that big red button and subscribe right now. Let's start with more bad news on the Cowboys. Another one added to the COVID list for Dallas. Cornerback Nahshon Wright is the latest player to test positive. He will, of course, miss Thursday's game against the New Orleans Saints. The outbreak continues for Dallas. I don't know if it's from the local Dallas community or transmission within the Cowboys organization, but 13 players or coaches have been placed in protocol in the last 12 days. That is not good for Dallas. So with Nahshon Wright out, it leaves Trevon Diggs, Anthony Brown, Jordan Lewis, Kelvin Joseph, and C.J. Goodwin as the Cowboys corners on the active roster. They could survive with that for a single game, especially since, if we're being honest, the Saints' passing attack is just not particularly good at the current point. But if you're like me, you are just fed up seemingly every day with a new COVID case for the Dallas Cowboys. So it probably might not do much, but I guess we can try. Type in stop in the comment section if you just want it to stop. It's just like the scene in The Office where Jim, after getting pelted by snowballs, is just going, I just want it to stop. That's where I'm at right now with this COVID outbreak for the Dallas Cowboys. Let's move now to some injury updates that I'm not going to call full-fledged news quite yet, and I'll explain why for all of these. First up, is Ezekiel Elliott going to get a full load, phrasing Dr. Jerry, from the Cowboys this week against the Saints? I'm giving it 3 stars, and this is news because Dr. Jerry said, he's a full participant in practice. He's going to play. He's getting the full workload. No concerns. He's going to be good to go. We're going to ride Zeke, as the Cowboys just love to give him the football. But I only gave it 3 stars for this reason. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that Dr. Jerry isn't always the best doctor out there. He tends to take a more optimistic viewpoint as it relates to how quickly somebody's able to come back. And I'll mention this part too. There had been reports of the Cowboys considered resting Zeke Elliott. McCarthy did not shut that down. The Cowboys like to do gamesmanship. They like to try to play they might play. They did it with Dak, and they did it with Ceedee Lamb as well. He was ruled out the night before, did not leak though. So maybe the Cowboys were playing the whole gamesmanship thing of, we're not going to reveal what the plan actually is until Thursday night. I will say this though. I think the Joneses, the decision maker at the top, that's Jerry and Steven, I think they want Zeke Elliott heavily involved because they paid him, and they very much are run game truthers. The issue is for Elliott, he has not been the same guy in recent weeks for Dallas. The first 5 games, even in that non-run game focused attack against the Buccaneers, Elliott was averaging 5.1 or 5.11 yards per carry. The yards after contact was 202. The last 6 games, which he has not always been injured for, that number is down to 3.57 and 110 yards after contact. Now, as we'll get into, it's not just about Elliott, but he doesn't look right, at least as far as I'm concerned. So what would you guys do? Would you rest Zeke for a game and hope that gets him back to looking more like early season Zeke? Type in P for you'd play him, or type R for rest. This is the pinned comment on today's video. So if the ad break comes on YouTube, take advantage, head down there, and let me know. I think we could almost all agree on this. I know you can never get 100% on anything in today's world, but Elliott does not look 100%. He doesn't look right out there. He is not as elusive, and you see that in the yards after contact stats, as he was earlier this year. The real problem for me is the entire Cowboys ground game is absolutely broken. They are not running the ball effectively, they are not running it efficiently, and yet they are continuing to try to establish the run. And by the way, it's not just a Zeke Elliott issue. It's not just an O-line issue. It's not just a play calling issue. It's an everything issue. Because Tony Pollard, even though he's been better than Elliott the past couple of games, his numbers are also way down. He has 2 fewer carries in the last 6 games than in his first 5, and his yards per carry is way down. The Cowboys' ground game since week 5 has been a bottom 3 ground game in the NFL. At a certain point, maybe you stop running it so much on first down and try to adjust beyond that. Today's show is powered by our sportsbook partner, BetUS, where the Cowboys are a favorite this week against the New Orleans Saints. You can get a 125% deposit bonus when you head over to chatsports.com/bet and use promo code Cowboys125. Put down $5 or $10 on the Cowboys to beat the Saints. The line is down to -4.5. Not that bad of a line for a road game. It's a little bit lower than what I thought it was going to end up being. It has dropped a half point, maybe because of Amari Cooper, who we'll get to here in a minute. But you can get a 125% deposit bonus at chatsports.com/bet when you use promo code Cowboys125. Continuing along with our injury news and notes here, are Cooper, Tank, and Lamb all going to come back against the Saints? Well, maybe almost all of them. 3 stars on this one. We will focus on each player, but I want to begin with the guy who maybe is not back quite yet. Dr. Jerry says, Cooper's back, we're good to roll. Mike McCarthy says, not so fast, my friend. Amari Cooper is still dealing with symptoms from his COVID-19 bout, did not practice on Monday. Now, the rules are for an unvaccinated player who, of course, is now testing negative, he is able to play if he has symptoms, but they have to be basically getting better or he's not going to be allowed out there. So there is a chance that Cooper is not able to play against the Saints. If he does not play or practice Wednesday, I don't really see how he's able to play against New Orleans. And that's a big deal for Dallas because Amari Cooper's a fantastic wide receiver. He's been a very solid player for Dallas, and I think his presence very much was missed from a Dak Prescott, and I would argue even more so the play-calling perspective of Kellen Moore. So we will wait and see on Amari Cooper, but there is no guarantee he is back since he's still battling some symptoms. He sure has gotten the shot, man. So will Cooper play this week? Y for yes, N for no. Get those predictions in right now in the comments section. All right, on now to the good news of today. Ceedee Lamb is back, fully returned from that concussion. No concerns about him being able to play, and the Cowboys really need Lamb back at wide receiver. He is a fantastic playmaker, and I think we would all agree, at least as close to all as we possibly could, that having your number 2 receiver, your former top 20 overall draft pick who was a baller at receiver, makes life a little bit easier. Now, Lamb this year he's played great. I took him, by the way, on BetUS at over 5.5 touchdowns. It cashed halfway through the year. Easy money. Lamb, I think, is in for a potentially big game. It would be better if Cooper's out there because that would make life easier to not have to deal with Nahshon Lattimore quite as much if you are Ceedee Lamb. But we'll see about the receiving core later on this week. Also set to return at long last, DeMarcus Lawrence. We did miss out on Thanksgiving, but that's okay. Tank is out since week 1, has been out, I should say, with a fractured foot. All signs, by the way, point to Lawrence making his return. And that is a big boost for the Cowboys' defensive line. They have been able to survive without Lawrence, but unless the name was Randy Gregory or Micah Parsons, the Cowboys have really been unable to get pressure from their defensive line, especially at edge consistently. Basham and Armstrong, Golston, just not those guys. So who is more important? They, of course, all are important, but who is the most important of these 3 players? AC for Amari Cooper, CD for Ceedee Lamb, and DL for DeMarcus Lawrence? Let me know what you guys think in the comments section. More defensive line notes here. Are Gallimore and Gregory back next week? I'm going to give this one 2 stars. I think it's a little early to tell. I actually feel the most confident about Neville Gallimore being able to return for Dallas. He has been officially, as we mentioned yesterday with Tristan Hill suspension news, designated to return for Dallas. He has a 21-day window to be activated to the team's active roster. That window, by the way, is a maximum window. It is not a minimum time to return. He could come back at any point now, although he's not going to come back from the for the Saints game. That's just simply not going to be the case here in the end. Now, Gregory has not yet been designated to return from IR. Now, they could bring him back on, Friday after the game, give him some practice time. The timing could potentially work out from that perspective. I just want to see him be designated first. The Cowboys have normally gone with a full week of practice, then return. That's not quite the right timing for Gregory. So I wouldn't be surprised if Gallimore comes back. We'll see if both guys are back, though, for Washington. That's still firmly in that rumor category, despite what Dr. Jerry says. So what do you think? Will Gregory and Gallimore be back, both of them, against Washington? Type 1 for yes, or you can type in 0 for no. Get those votes in for me in the comments section. Let's talk more about this defensive line here now. Osa Odigizua has been a good football player, but he's still a young rookie. He needs more consistency. I don't love him, frankly, against the run either. Carlos Watkins is a okay football player. Tristan Hill is suspended. I would not be surprised if the appeals process is not finalized by kickoff Thursday, which means you could have a situation where Hill goes on the suspension list, freeing up a spot for Gallimore immediately in the rotation. Meanwhile, you do really miss Randy Gregory. Make no mistake about it. He is a critical cog of this Cowboys pass rush, constantly being held, consistently getting pressure, has 5 sacks as well. Your top 2 edges this year are on the IR, which if you had told me that, I would have thought they were worse than 7 and 4 at this point. But Micah pass rusher has been a pretty big deal in terms of being able to get pressure. Armstrong, Basham, Golston, not so much, unfortunately, from the perspective. But if you can make Lawrence, Gregory, and Parsons out there, that's a pretty big deal for the Dallas Cowboys in terms of having success and doing all that. If we want to go back to the defensive tackle depth chart, by the way, here, Jeremy, one final note I'll wrap up with here on today's show, some news that did come across late. Brent Urban is not going to be returning this year for the Dallas Cowboys. His wife announced on Twitter that he is dealing with, or had, season-ending triceps surgery. Urban had tried to rehab and then come back, but it was not able to work out in the end. So Urban's season is over. He will not be back for the Dallas Cowboys. A big loss because he was a good run stopper for this team.